All right. First, we want to start out with a little bit of gratitude for our industry partners. As an organization that started with the $25 from, we're going to back up a little bit. Fantastic. Our organization started with $25 because we had to have $25 to open a checking account. So I wrote a check to start our organization, and that's where we came from. There's of course no seed money or anything like that. No money that you can really apply for as a nonprofit organization. Nobody wants to fund you because you're never going to make it big in the same way. So it's all a matter of kind of bootstrapping your way into profitability, and a lot of that is working in a proactive and positive way with organizations that you have shared goals with. And so we are grateful to the organizations that you see on the screen that contribute and support the efforts that we put together. Thank you again. I know you were thanked in the incipient remarks, but the things that you do and contribute continue to innovate with new product, support the meetings that we're doing, continuing to tell your newer colleagues, your newer surgeons and representatives about the Chest Wall Injury Society is appreciated, and we're grateful for it. So thank you. So this is just going to play in the background, and if you want to just click on it so people have the perspective of where the title came from, in case you are not already a T-Swift fan. This song, or the line where this is predicated on, is based on one of her more popular songs of "I love you." I say I hate you, we break up, you call me, I love you. Right? That's where this is from. It essentially. We can continue on. Thank you so much. All right. So I often process things that are going on within the Chest Wall Injury Society, and sometimes I hear about things that are going on, relationships that are going on between industry and individual surgeons, or just on a collective basis. And I was thinking about a particular story I'd heard and some feedback, and was processing it over and thinking, I bet some of our members would really like to have some feedback from some of our industry partners. Maybe they would want to. And thought, maybe the Chest Wall Injury Society is in the perfect position, because I hear about some things and I hear about other things, and really at the end of the day, I'm in the middle. There's no, I have no vested interest in either. I want them all to get along, but I'm not emotionally committed to that, their interpersonal workings necessarily, other than I want everyone to ultimately just get along in some form or another. And this turned into, well, maybe I'll ask this group that doesn't often get asked for their feedback about how they feel and what their thoughts are, which is where the big idea came from. The next part was actually the hardest part, the pitch, calling each of our industry partners, the main contacts with each of our industry partners, and saying, I have this survey in mind. Would you please share it with all your representatives, your leadership teams, etc.? And under the cloak of complete anonymity, everything will be decoupled, so there's no possible way for you to feel like you're being identified, so that you truly can give your honest feedback, whatever it may be. Would you be willing to share this and encourage your team members to be as honest and candid as they feel comfortable? And it took some negotiating and some promises that there would be complete anonymity, so that there was never a feeling that they were potentially going to say, man, this characteristic about the surgeons I work with, no names were mentioned, of course, but that was a little bit tenuous. And then finally, the results, which is what brings us here. I thought it was this novel idea, right? I thought I had come up with this really innovative idea. And I remember, calling Dr. White and being like, hey, I have this new idea. We're going to do this survey. It'll be so great for everybody because these unheard voices will finally be heard. Then when I did a PubMed search, turns out it wasn't innovative. Other people have done it before. So I pulled some short clips and just wanted to highlight some of them from one of their recent articles. This article is specifically about feedback from orthopedic surgeons or feedback about the relationship between orthopedic surgeons and some of their representatives. And in the top one, it talks about device reps work hard to make themselves unobtrusively indispensable. Surgeons view industry-funded training opportunities as a necessary service. Device reps and some surgeons believe that reps benefit patient care by increasing efficiency and mitigating deficiencies among operating room personnel. In the second box, there's a piece that kind of surprised me. You can see there are some, there are a few lines highlighted, but the one on the bottom was the one that shocked me the most. As prior to coming, those that don't know me, prior to coming to the Chest Wall Injury Society, I was in healthcare administration for 15 years because I started as a very small child, just to be clear. Anyway, that notwithstanding, but it says 21% had direct physical contact with a surgical team or patient during a surgery. And as a person who was in healthcare administration, I was like, oh my goodness, that definitely, took me by surprise. So there were some maybe shocking moments as I was reading through this particular paper. But I do. I can imagine as I read that to Dr. White, he's like, well, yeah, sometimes you're like, hey, move those feet, or something. I was like, oh my gosh. So I suspect there are reasons or rationale or something. I don't know. But, and then in the final box, surgeons and device reps alike named reliability the most valued quality of a device rep. So to those of you that are in said roles or manage people in said roles, there you go. Interesting feedback that you probably already knew. As far as the people that responded, these are qualified responses. So we're going to talk about, some of the things that they said. Oh, if you can see it, but you can't until I click the button. And now you can. But these are not people that are unfamiliar with the practice, right? On average, they've been in the game for about 6 years, and the range of experience is between 5 months and 14 years, or it was at the time of this survey, which was last fall. And then you can see the spread of the approximate number of total cases they've seen. So again, these are people that are regularly participating in surgical cases and in and out of the OR. These are not people that are wet behind the ears or don't know what they're talking about. So I think their experience, I'm going to say, is qualified within the realm that they serve. You may or may not agree with all their feedback, but I think it shows that they have a breadth of experience. First and foremost, they share the message about CWIS. So you can see the ones that are the seafoam green color and the orange talks about of our different types of offerings that they are regularly telling other people about the Chest Wall Injury Society, or they're saying that they're regularly telling other people about it. So I, again, thank you for sharing the message. Again, I'd like to see a few more people. They're reporting that maybe the largest number of responses are in the seldom or often category in terms of how frequently they actually participate themselves in our activities. Case review, journal club, things like that are open to our industry partners. So I would encourage you, if you're not already a regular, this is your chance to make a commitment to change. You can find the information on our website, in our newsletter, social media, etc. So some of the feedback. I am not a clinical person, so I'm not going to, make any commentary about this other than to say there were themes, and we're going to talk about the themes. These were some of the themes that came up in the clinical topics that were presented that were commented with some level of frequency that industry reps felt like they saw inadequate, or that they see inadequate reduction, sometimes placing screws without the plate being flush against the bone. Again, not the plate not being completely to the bone, and then large gaps without a graft, and that potentially plates could break under these conditions. As a non-clinician and as a person who's not a part of surgical experiences, I don't intend to speak to this, and obviously defer to the judgment of the healthcare professionals in the room. But interesting feedback. I will say, then there was additional feedback provided about incisions. You can see in the photo on the left, one style of, what we deem as the lifting the hood of Buick, and on the right side of the, of course, much less invasive version, there were many, many comments about incision size in approximation to the ease of the case. The cases, I'm giving an example that cases could go better if incision sizes were of a different size. Again, I am not, the person to make comment or judgment about it, simply to be a conduit of information. And I think it's an interesting thing to say, to see. I think our industry partners on a regular basis, our industry partners often see probably more cases than many of our healthcare professionals do on a regular basis, because they're in cases with such frequency that I think they probably pick up tips and tricks from other people. And perhaps they have some suggestions that you can consider or not. You are the clinical expert, obviously, and know your patient and the decision far better. But if this gives you an opportunity to reconsider why you do what you do, that's, all this is perfect, all the intent of the message. The next one, make the time to take the time. I think, there were many, many comments about the speed. And I think we are all so busy and overprogrammed, and we all have so many things on our everyday to-do list. And I think sometimes we think of, if I can get something done faster, that's better, right? And again, as a non-clinician, I'm not here to judge about if your speed of surgery is better or worse. And is it a good thing to go faster, or does it mean you're inefficient, you're using more anesthesia, and that's more, again, from a healthcare administrator perspective, the longer you're in the OR, the more dollars that is, and those kinds of things. So my perspective is certainly different than the clinician perspective. However, some of the feedback provided fell into these kinds of categories. It's potentially worth consideration as you think about where your particular practice is. I think this one on the far left, the large one, is one that I specifically want to highlight, because I think it highlights an area of teamwork that I know if I were in the situation, I would be particularly attuned to. So it talks about, some surgeons rush in without a clear plan, or at least one without telling anyone the plan. And then they're frustrated with the staff and myself when we don't mind read. I can imagine if I were in that situation, that would feel frustrating, right? That if you don't understand why we're doing it at this speed, or why we're doing what we're doing, that could potentially create some friction on all ends, and maybe lead to, a less than perfect opportunity for optimal communication, or just optimal teamwork. So we've actually talked about timing a number of times today, and we even talked about this paper. So thank you to those that are on the paper. I know, again, this has been cited a number of times, but I think this paper highlights an exact dichotomy, right? Or it puts us naturally at odds. Our industry partners have multiple customers and surgeons that they're trying to support all at the same time, or teams. Sometimes it's your whole surgical team that they're trying to support all at the same time, and have a plan for their week or their day even. And then at the same time, we're trying to get the patient to the OR in 24 hours or less, as we just discussed in the timing panel that Dr. Bunz so eloquently led. So sometimes it puts us so naturally at odds when one party is working as hard as they can to get that patient to the OR as quickly as possible, and the other party is trying to follow through on commitments they've already made, and trying to figure out how, with travel, other appointments and other meetings that they have scheduled, et cetera, they can follow through and be dependable and that reliable, that optimal reliable rep that was mentioned in the beginning of the talk, how they can be that person and still support you as you're trying to get to the OR. And so naturally there's friction there. Naturally communication is paramount and potentially, at the end of the day, everybody having the perspective that we're all trying to get to that target best care for the patient, but it looks like different things to different people. And I think potentially gives us an opportunity to consider, just consider that we're all aiming towards that same goal. And then there's just the opportunity to do it in Aretha Franklin style. Some of these are a little bit harder to consider. There are just some basic respect issues, I think, sometimes. I think, how just so in my other life, I have the opportunity to lecture about leadership and teams as part of a business, as part of the David Eccles School of Business. And in thinking about a team environment, I think sometimes, when someone is coming in from perceivably the outside, which, our industry representatives don't work for the same healthcare systems that our healthcare professionals do, that if we allow them to feel like they're on the outside, then that can sometimes create maybe a less than respectful environment in some situations, or maybe it has, or the perception that it has for some of our industry partners. And I think it's just a good opportunity for a reminder that respect is always paramount. Team culture, it just matters, and if we're not going to feel like a team and we're not going to perform as a team, then maybe the team members don't all need to, have that. I mean, if we're not going to perform as a team, then maybe all members of the team have different reasons to be there, or maybe need to have their role clarified. I want you to be here to help with these tasks, or I don't need you to tell me how to do X, Y, Z, but please support these items, right? So that there isn't friction when someone starts saying, well, if you did this, and you're saying, I don't need you to tell me how to do that. And it comes across in a way that, potentially feels like conflict that maybe doesn't need to be there. I think that could be helpful. So remember the name of the guy that asked you out, and don't remind him of the date you had last week, right? That it's a good reminder. Good. And I would say it ties in terms of confusing the systems, commoditizing the systems, talking negatively about a system you're using, or talking negatively about a system you have used, right? It's just a good social grace. And at the end of the day, it's all about the Benjamins, right? Like, there's a good reminder that, I know of no surgeon that wants to hear someone say, well, you just want to do surgery because you're a surgeon and you make money, right? Nobody wants to hear that or wants to feel that way. And I know of no rep that wants to hear a statement of similar, well, you just want me to plate more because it makes you more money, right? But I think sometimes those comments happen. And I think it's a good reminder that, we're all in this hopefully for the same reason, and that's to better patient care. And it's just a good thing to keep in mind. I also think sometimes comments are made about, or it was reported that there are sometimes comments made about rep salaries or things like that. And I just would caution that if we're all going to be part of the team, let's leave that where it is. If there were questions about CWIS, and so in true mea culpa fashion, I am willing to also make formal acknowledgement and take some personal fault. So I will openly disclose the items that came up about CWIS, because if I'm going to give you feedback, there's no reason not to be transparent about it as well. So some of the feedback I've heard from surgeons who are not your members, that your group feels like a clique. It's true. We are, as a clique is defined, a small group of people with shared interests and other features in common who spend time together. So I will acknowledge that, sure. Oh, no, no, this is what it is. Okay. This is as good as it gets.
Click definition slide. I'm sorry.
No, this is where we are. So, as by that definition, yes, in fact, we are those things, a small group of people with shared interests or other features in common who spend time together. But I do take umbrage with the definition of clique that says we do not readily allow others to join us. We are 100% open to other people joining us. If you are in this room and you are not a part of CWIS, now is your chance. Do I have a deal for you? Or if you know someone who feels they're on the outside of CWIS, please send them my way. I am always happy for a new member and would gladly welcome someone in. So the second one of feedback, it is unrealistic for industry partners to collaborate as much as you would like. I have great relationships and mutual respect with all industry partners, but there's still professional competition. Agreed. I'm a capitalist at heart. And outside of this room, if you want to have a cage match, awesome. I'm in. But when you're here, I super appreciate the way you all try to be, just high quality professionals and get along. Thank you. The CWIS grant funding requests are unreasonable. You need to have a better understanding of how much research projects cost, particularly publicly traded companies, require transparency, etc. And I will say I appreciate your perspective. Please recognize that our research team is very cognizant and does a very good job of dialing it in on exactly how much they think a research project will cost. We are not exorbitant in our research costs or in our research asks, as far as I would say. We certainly don't pad things, but we try to be as realistic as possible, and research takes money. I'm always going to go to bat for my team because it's what we do. So thank you for the perspective. Research is expensive for you and us. Having said all of that, there's so much love for all of you.
These are the positive comments.
These are positive comments. I'm just letting you read them.
Waiting for them.
These are there were lots of positive comments. There were plenty of things that came up that said, one of the questions I will say, what are the behaviors that annoy you? You were set up, they were set up to say, this thing bugs me, right? There was also a question that said, what behaviors delight you? And these were some of the behaviors that came up. Don't worry, they like you on the whole. The next one was about kind words for CWIS. Do what you're doing. I do really appreciate the second one, though. More advertising emails, because I can do that. That is well within my realm. So to the person that wrote that, you and I should be friends. They like the podcasts, that in general, things are going well. Last but not least, I think self-reflection is paramount. The purpose of this is not to tell you that I think there's any right or wrong, or that someone is doing it optimally or not. I have no idea where the feedback came from, and quite frankly, I'm not super worried about who provided it or who it was about. Simply to say, there's a lot of good feedback. There are some opportunities for some of our members or some of our chest wall injury surgeons. They weren't even necessarily targeted at members. It was just chest wall injury surgeons you work with. There are some opportunities for some people to maybe have some self-reflection and grow. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're not. Maybe you've never done any of those things that were mentioned on those slides. Or maybe you are, and when you return on Monday, you want to give just 5 minutes of pause before you launch into your next interaction with one of your industry partners. Regardless, I appreciate the opportunity to share the feedback with you. I also will say, now that we've had this opportunity to have this one-way feedback, I see no reason why we wouldn't reverse it for next year. So don't worry, we'll start up another survey and ask for some feedback about our industry partners the next time. We'll turn it about and have a similar topic next time. Any thoughts or questions?
There have to be some questions.
I have a comment.
Please.
I wanted to say one of my partners and I actually have a little competition going about the incision size. We managed to, squeeze it down.
Oh, I'm sure there are
smaller,
lots of people that do.
But, I will say that if you make a small incision, you must have known exactly where the problem was. So I do think that you have to make the right size incision for the job, but
Yep.
the closer you are to the target, the smaller it can be, so.
I think it makes a lot of sense. To be clear, this side
Man in the blue.
this podium is a judgment-free zone. I don't know anything about incision size. I know a
got
lot about teamwork and leadership. I could lecture about that for hours. Otherwise, it's all you.
Bring it, because I would love to learn more about both of those things. I know this may sound a little pedantic, but I really genuinely feel this way. Nothing that we do in the operating room would be possible without the people in the back of this room. The technology that they have developed is why we get to have these meetings and why this society exists. And I do think it's really hard as trauma surgeons to build that relationship, because we're not like orthopedic surgeons that have this baked into our training. And I do see a lot of bad behavior when it comes to this in my own hospital. But I think that it's been 5 years now. I think the people in this room are getting better at it, but we probably still have something to learn.
100%.
Can I make a case for having crucial conversations or upfront discussions with reps that between reps and surgeons, if there's a behavior that the rep is consistently behaving a certain way and it's irksome to you, or you'd rather they dealt with you in a different manner. I think, and I haven't always done this, I'm not saying I'm good at this, but I think it behooves us to pull them aside and take them for a cup of coffee and sit them down and just say, look, you're a great guy, you're a great gal, you enjoy having you in the operating room, but you need to stop doing X, and do it respectfully, and then give them an opportunity to provide some feedback, make a two-way thing. But I think that's better than just ignoring the tension and just ignoring the rep and having resentment build further. Does that make sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think in any human relationship, that makes sense. And so why would this be any different?
Well, not every relationship.
You say that, but
Just let me show.
well, I don't think you need to give like your barista heart to heart, but probably other humans deserve, the chance to hear your genuine feedback. No, I think if we're all going to continue to enhance patient care, it makes sense for us to do it in a way that's respectful and where we can say one to another, like, this thing you do, it just really gets under my skin. Because maybe it's something that they don't know it gets under your skin, or maybe they think they're being super helpful.
Yeah. I find it gratifying and endearing when a rep takes the time to try to learn something about what you're doing, or about rib fracture repair, or the physiology. I know many of them are have clinician backgrounds, but many of them aren't nurses, aren't PAs, they don't have that training, but there's no reason why they shouldn't avail themselves of the multiple webinars that we provide and capture and archive, and the more knowledge they bring to the case, I think it adds respect, and it also it should add enjoyment, and it should make the case more fun for them and more gratifying. So I would encourage your reps to continue to do that. I'm often impressed. Case review series, we can see who's logged in, and we have 10 or 12 surgeons. There might be a dozen reps on the line too. So I would like to see that continue. And if there's something we can do to enhance that phenomenon, let us know, and we'll try to do it more of it.
Well,
I don't think there's a downside to it.
On that level, we did receive feedback about topics that some of our industry partners have questions on and would like to see additional information that they're a little bit different educational topics than our members have, because they obviously have different backgrounds and training. So we may engage some of our members with asking you to help provide or education towards those topics. So if you're interested in helping support that effort, please let me know, because I think some of those basic science kinds of presentations would be really helpful, and we'd really be delighted to have the support of our membership. Yes, Dr. Crisco.
Yeah, I don't know if it's inherent to everyone in the room, but it has been for my young practice that the rep, the chief resident, or where the resident is doing the case, myself, and often the nurse and tech all view the images together. Certainly the rep and the chief resident are always in my room viewing the images together with me and making a preoperative plan. And the reps that work with me are accustomed to that. I don't know if everyone else is doing that, but it's something I do with every case, and I think it makes a mutual respect, and the plan is solid, and they kind of have an idea, a better idea of what they think I'm thinking, which I do every time, so I don't know.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Dr. Nguyen?
I think the relationship that you have with your operative team and your rep is tremendous. I think in speaking with a lot of the reps who've maybe been around a little longer, they used to be called somewhat consultants because they were like that. They would talk with the team about what to do, how to do it, which approaches we're doing. I think in the recent years, it's become a little taboo to be associated with a rep or to have a relationship with a rep from an institution level, while simultaneously we're bringing on several trauma surgeons and other surgeons who aren't spending 5-6 years learning the principles of orthopedic surgery. And so now you have people coming out who don't have all the experience in the world of how to fix bones and fix a chest wall, and tying their hands with being, poo-pooed upon by, growing those relationships. So I think that mutual respect really needs to come back a little bit back, realizing that, sunshine laws and stuff like that is not appropriate, but we need to build a better relationship on a working level.
I think your point is well taken, and I think from a society perspective, I can't tell you how frequently I hear from new platers who will call me or email me and say, "Oh, I heard about your society from so-and-so from this organization," or "I just took a course from this organization and I want to hear more," right? So from an organization perspective, it's a huge conduit of how people find out about us, because we don't necessarily know how to reach people that are newly trained without a partnership with our industry representative. Sometimes, it's one of our members that's teaching the course, but not always. And so I think that's a terrific point about, strengthening those relationships. And I think, we definitely rely on them to help spread our message too. Yes.
I would be remiss if I didn't speak up. I'm Carrie. 20 years ago, when I was a small child with Sarah, and
Yes.
I was a drug rep, and I was the one who came in and begged you, please, please, please use my product.
Oh my
Okay, I
goodness.
can't tell you, just be honest with your rep, right? It's so refreshing if a doc would just say, "You know what would help me? Just get to the point," right? And some docs will go, "You know what would help? I want to know about your kids. I want to bullshit for 5 minutes first," right?
Yes.
I'm not that person, me personally, right? So just be honest. Or you know what? You can call me Carrie when we're at Starbucks. You don't call me Carrie in the OR. I tell my reps that, right? I'm Dr. Valdez in the OR. I'm Carrie at Starbucks. Just be honest. So if there's irritating habits, if I need your help, if I tell you don't contact me until after May 17th because I have my site visit coming up, don't contact me until, so just, that is what we need. We being
Yes.
way back in the day, 2 decades ago when I was a very small child, before the Sunshine Act and they would let us work, that's what was so helpful. Okay, so I felt like I wanted to say just something, because it's a really hard job and it's a really fun job. I promise you, we're not doing it for the money. We're gonna sell 1,000 widgets. Whether you do an extra 2 this week or you don't do an extra 2 this week, it just does not matter. It's like gallbladders. Whether you do 600 this year or 603 this year, probably doesn't matter to you when you go to bed at night. It's the same thing for the reps. So I just wanted to just say something on behalf of all the reps. And this is cool. No one else is doing surveys like this. I think it'll be kind of fun and a kind way to do it in reverse next year.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you,
will say
Carrie.
thank you. I think one of the points of feedback that someone did give said something about, if you're not interested, just say you're not interested. Don't keep stringing me along, and I think that's, kind of interesting feedback as well. Yes, Dr. Hanson.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I gotta say, I didn't do a lot of plating in training, hardly any, to tell you the
Yeah.
truth. And the industry taught me everything I know. And I won't say which company, but they told me about CWIS, and I came here and I learned even more, and it's exploded since then. And I think I like to be honest with the representatives that I deal with. I deal with like 4 different companies, and they each have 1 or 2 products that I like the best. I tell them straight up, I don't like your rib plate, but I love your sternal plate. And I think that they're pretty cool with that. Like they get it. You know, they're like, you know, you don't have to have an exclusive relationship with it, but you're using their product. And I'll be honest, I'm very happy with industry relationships. And I think we should promote those as much as we can, and not look at them as taboo. I mean, you've got to, you know, say that we have that relationship and, you know, make it obvious and then move forward. I think we got all kinds of forward growth that we can have if we work really well together.
It's so true. It is so true. I think some of the, you know, to your point and Dr. Wynn's point, I think some of the, you know, Sunshine Act and some of those other things have created an environment where it feels like a pejorative to even have a positive relationship, or you feel a little, you know, tenuous about it. I mean, it feels a little awkward, and yet, as Dr. Schubel mentioned, we're reliant on each other. We have a symbiotic relationship, and so it's good to also have, you know, a respectful and, you know, open relationship where we can be that level of honest with one another. So thank you for your support on the survey. To our industry partners, thank you very much for filling it out. Thank you for trusting me with your feedback, and being willing to be candid and honest about what you had to say. I promise you we'll reverse it so that we can also give you some feedback about potentially opportunities for enhancement within your roles. And thank you for your open comments today. We'll look forward to seeing you all tonight at dinner.